This is USVI News, your Virgin Islands connection.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for USVI News. I'm Emily Matson. Virgin Islands police arrest a man wanted for serious crimes out of the state of Georgia. Monday morning, officers with the Criminal Investigation Bureau arrested 36-year-old Terrell Ross in Charlotte Amalie. He's wanted in Georgia for multiple warrants, including homicide by vehicle. He's sitting in prison without bond, awaiting extradition to the mainland. The latest COVID-19 variants, BA4 and BA5, have both been confirmed in the territory, and local health department leaders say cases of the more resistant virus are on the rise throughout the territory. According to the VI Department of Health, there are currently 262 active COVID-19 cases territory-wide, with 147 currently on St. Croix, 95 on St. Thomas, and 20 on St. John. So we're seeing a bit of a spike in active cases right now. Vaccine makers are currently working on a vaccine to target the new variants, which is expected to be available this coming fall. And while there have been a handful of monkeypox cases in nearby Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands Department of Health says there have been no cases reported as yet in the VI. But the number of monkeypox cases in the U.S. is climbing, according to the CDC. And now top health officials say the outbreak needs to be taken more seriously. All of this as daily COVID-19 case counts are surging once again, not only in the Virgin Islands, but across the nation. Cole Higgins has the very latest.
Monkeypox has been detected throughout most of the U.S. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there are cases in at least 45 states and jurisdictions. And now the CDC reporting there are at least 1,814 probable or confirmed monkeypox cases across the country, causing some top health officials to warn the window to contain the virus may already be closed.
We made a lot of the same mistakes that we made with COVID with this, having a very narrow case definition, not having enough testing. And while it's not going to explode because it's harder for this virus to spread, it's probably going to be persistent. You'll have this as a sort of a fact of life.
Worldwide, monkeypox cases surpassing 12,000, and officials say the real numbers are likely higher.
You're always probably looking at what might be, we don't know, the tip of the iceberg. So that's the reason why we've got to get the testing out there in a much more vigorous way.
Dr. Fauci says more testing will be done, with 5 commercial testing laboratories coming online. He also expects up to 700,000 vaccines to be distributed to communities by the end of July. Fauci and other top health officials also worrying about the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic in the U.S. Fueled by the Omicron offshoot BA5, daily COVID-19 case rates are surging again, and hospitalizations and deaths are also up.
We've got to stay on top of this virus. We've got to keep building new generations of vaccines. We've got to make sure we have adequate treatments. We can get through this.
I'm Cole Higgins reporting.
U.S. health officials and the FDA are now discussing whether a second COVID-19 booster is necessary for adults under 50 years old. And as far as monkeypox, it's mostly seen in men who have sex with men. But officials warn it can be spread by close physical contact and by touching contaminated surfaces, which puts everybody at risk of infection. The TSA is screening more than 2 million people on average every day at airport checkpoints. That's nearly the same level seen before the pandemic. But airlines are struggling to accommodate the demand, leading to ongoing flight disruptions across the country. Here's why the summer travel chaos shows no signs of letting up, and a look at the worst airports in the U.S. for cancellations and delays.
Demand for summer travel continues to soar, and that's fueling delays and cancellations with no signs of relief for passengers.
If you look back at 2019, before the pandemic, cancellations overall were about 1.6%. And if you look now, it's about 2.7%.
According to data from flight tracking site FlightAware, U.S. airlines canceled more than 100,000 flights this year, with 30,000 of them just since Memorial Day weekend. So what's to blame? Experts point to rough weather, heavy air traffic, and massive staffing shortages.
But it isn't that they don't have pilots. It's more that the schedules are too ambitious. The schedules, our 2019 schedules, with 2022 staffing.
Recently, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says he's seeing airlines making improvements like reducing flight schedules and removing charges to change flights, but he still expects airlines to do better.
I'm less interested in the finger pointing and more interested in solutions because we need to be able to get to where we're going.
Meanwhile, a FlightAware analysis shows New York area airports are leading the nation for flight cancellations, with Newark and LaGuardia taking the number 1 and number 2 spot on the list. Reagan National, Raleigh-Durham International, and Cleveland Hopkins International rounded out the top 5.
Obviously, what we see is that there tends to be more cancellations and delays where there's more traffic.
And the number 1 airport for delays is Chicago Midway.
And following Chicago Midway, FlightAware says these are the other top U.S. airports for delays. At number 2, Orlando International Airport, followed by John F. Kennedy International Airport, Newark Liberty International, and the Baltimore Washington International Thurgood Marshall Airport takes the 5th spot. Meantime, the travel chaos playing out across the globe, really. So if you're flying anywhere this summer, better bring a carry-on. That's because the rates of lost luggage apparently right now are skyrocketing. Lindsay Reiser tells us why it's happening and how to prevent your own travel nightmare.
Your bags are packed, you're ready to go. But where those bags go might be another story.
About $4,000 worth of clothes, baby formula for our little daughter.
Marvi Wright says she flew Air France from Oregon to Spain, and after a chaotic carousel of flight changes, her suitcase full of gifts, clothes, and personal items was nowhere to be found.
My mom is 83. She has dementia, and I was hoping to have some time with her and go through some pictures that I printed for her.
While Air France says they regret the current situation and apologize to customers concerned, Marvi says she still hasn't gotten her bag back 23 days later. And her story isn't unique. Look at these airport images from Dublin and Amsterdam to New York and D.C. One Twitter user calling the scene a graveyard of lost bags.
Y'all, this is insane.
And just this week, Delta flew a plane carrying 1,000 stranded bags. No people. From London's Heathrow Airport to Detroit.
The reason why we're seeing so many lost bags is the same reason why we're seeing so many delayed flights, is the same reason we're seeing so many long lines at the airport, a labor shortage across the economy and across airlines.
According to the most recent Air Travel Consumer Report, in April, nearly 220,000 bags were lost or damaged in the U.S., a jump of 135% since last year when fewer people were traveling.
What should we do to make sure that our bags are going to be there when we land?
Avoiding checking a bag is the single best thing you can do.
But that's not realistic for many of us. So experts say, consider a small GPS tracking device. Take a picture of your valuables inside and know your rights.
Not only are the airlines required to compensate you for lost bags, up to $3,800 for a domestic flight and up to $1,780 for an international flight, but they're also on the hook for any incidentals along the way.
Making sure your summer plans don't grind to a halt.